It's truly a pleasure to be here and to talk about the courage to trust your intuition. I have a number of different thoughts of where we will go, and when I sat and reflected on what would be the most appropriate venue here, I have had a hunch that in addition to discussing the 12 senses of the ancients as described by the ancient Egyptians, that it might also be valuable for us to identify the 13 common impediments to intuition. Anybody here ever doubt their intuition? Does that ever come up? Or question, is this my intuition or am I just making it up? Am I just trying to please somebody? There are many different styles of impediments. And so I thought it would be valuable to look at some of those as well. My intent for the course is for us to use our intuition to do a little bit of healing of whatever our favorite impediment might be, and how to distinguish our assumptions or our conditioning from our clear intuition is really one of the tests and challenges that intuition brings to us. So in starting, I'd like to just find out all of who is here today. So if you have been psychic since childhood, would you please stand up and remain standing? Psychic since childhood, whatever that means to you. Okay.
That's a tough one.
Of course, we all were psychic in childhood, but not many of us had it confirmed. And some of us, even when it wasn't confirmed, we knew it anyway. And so we learned who to talk to and who not to talk to about our psychic and intuitive resources. That's very common. Okay, so just stay standing if you have been identifying yourself as psychic since childhood. Now, if your intuition speaks to you through your dreams, if you get dreams and the symbols in the dreams have meaning to you, and you're able to work with those dream symbols, please stand up. If your intuition works with you through your dreams. If you've ever had the experience of precognition or prophecy, you've had a sense of something that is coming, even if it was picking up the phone and knowing who was on the other end, that's another form of precognition. Please stand up. If you've ever had the experience of telepathy, telepathy is the transmission of information between people where you have a knowledge about someone without them necessarily having to tell you. You know how they're feeling, for example. Empathy is another word for telepathy. If you have that experience, please stand up. If you've ever had the experience of doing hands-on healing, either on yourself or someone else, and you have a sense that you have the ability to transmit spiritual energies, please stand up if you're not already standing. Well, isn't this interesting? We already have a very intuitive, spiritually practiced group. Admittedly, some of us have skills that are more in one area than another. Now, if you have ever doubted your intuition or not acted on what you knew, please sit down. If you have ever had the feeling that others doubt you, and you need to prove to them that you're right, or that you know, even though they don't trust you, please sit down. If you are here as a clear diviner of intuitive perspective, and you know yourself and know when you are on and when you are off, please sit down. That's the highest expression of our intuition, is that self-trust, and we use it to guide us on our path. And we know when even one little toe is off the path because we experience the discord. That's actually part of the path, is that continually bringing ourselves back into harmony and balance with that deeper spiritual wisdom which is always guiding us. The first step in developing our intuition is knowing how we might clear ourselves, make ourselves available, eliminate resistances and barriers. The key to intuition, according to Nell Noddings, who is a professor of education at Stanford University, in her book, Awakening the Inner Eye, Intuition in Education, Nell Noddings suggests that the first thing we need to do is relax. Relaxation is the key to awakening our intuition. She suggests taking a couple sips of sherry. Obviously, that's not for everyone. But the idea is to be able to relax. And actually, many ancient and indigenous cultures would indeed use medicines to help them relax or to help them awaken deeper intuitive resources. For example, in the Eleusinian mysteries, there were special herbs that were taken. And in the traditions of the Americas, there are a number of different sacred herbs that are used to awaken our intuition. One thing we can use to awaken our intuition and help us relax, where we don't have to go anywhere special to get it, is the breath. According to traditions worldwide, the breath contains subtle spiritual energy. And so learning to breathe and to use your breath and the spiritual energies that is carried within the breath into the body is a very, very powerful tool. So the first breath that we are going to use is a stabilizing breath. The stabilizing breath is a breath that you can use, and I'm going to demonstrate it first. You'll stand with your feet under your hips. I'm actually going to take my shoes off. And the breath, basically, you imagine yourself to be a tree. So your legs are the trunk of the tree, your torso begins the branching of the tree. And as you breathe in, you imagine that you are drawing energy from the roots that go beneath your feet deep into the ground, drawing energy and nutrients up from the earth, breathing in, bringing this energy all the way up like sap rising up the center of the tree. Then your branches spread and receive the light of the radiant sun. And then we'll take a deep breath again, and then we're going to bring that sunlight in through the branches, down through the core of the tree, down into the roots and into the ground. This is a very powerful way to ground yourself if you are ever feeling a little unstable. So I'm going to demonstrate it once. Notice my breathing. I'm breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Okay. So now, always breathing through the nose. The nose has little filters. So for this exercise, breathe in and out through the nose. Please stand up and let's practice this. You might need to spread out into the center of the circle, and that's okay. Okay, breathing in and all the way up. drawing in the sap and nutrients from the earth, in and up. Exhaling, spreading your branches, and now inhaling, drawing in sunlight, and exhaling, bringing this radiant energy down into the earth, through your body. 2 more at your own pace. And whenever you're done, just close your eyes and take a normal breath and observe how your body feels. Just notice how the body feels. There are many different systems that talk about chakras or the meridians or the different kinds of subtle lines of energy. And when we breathe in, we are bringing in not only oxygen, which sends a boost of energy through the blood, cleansing the blood, cleansing and clearing the muscles and all of the cells of the body, but there are also subtle pathways in the body where subtle spiritual energies are sent to the nervous system and begin to awaken subtle awarenesses in the body. The key to intuition is the awakening of our subtle awareness. Now, according to people in parapsychology, intuition has basically a couple different ways of looking at it. There's the psychic function, which is the transmission and receiving of information, like telepathy or clairvoyance or precognition or many of those more broad spectrum intuitive resources. And then there's also healing resources where you actually experience subtle energy interacting with the physical body. According to parapsychologists, whether it is information or healing energy or physical impact of spiritual energy, it's the same one energy. In parapsychology, it's given the term psi, P-S-I. And according to physicist Helmut Schmidt, who's been working in parapsychology for many, many years, it's kind of like the wave or the particle. Whether you look at it as a particle, and that would be like the impact of physical healing from subtle energies, or the wave, which would be more like a transmission of energy that is outside of time and space, it's basically still the same energy. So when we're talking about the courage to trust your intuition, it's also the willingness to be a receiver of subtle and spiritual energies, and how to begin to work and use these subtle forces. Now, according to the ancient Egyptians, we have 3 tools that help us work with spiritual energies. 3 tools. The first is the experience of the energy itself, which we all just experienced. In the Hindu system, it's called prana. In the Japanese, it's called ki. In Chinese, it's called qi. It's all of the same. Whether we call it ki, chi, prana, ergon energy, there are a number of different names for this energy worldwide. So the first resource we have is the energy itself. And one of the primary ways of accessing and tapping and connecting to spiritual energies is through the breath. So now take a deep breath again. There's a wonderful little breathing exercise called the column of light. I'd like you to practice the column of light while I'm describing the rest of the practices and resources that we have. The column of light is, you imagine that you have a spout at the crown of your head, and you breathe in. If you can imagine a distant star way out in the heavens, and as you imagine that star, it's brighter than any other star. That's your own guiding star. Imagine that that star now sends a beam of light through the heavens, through the atmosphere of the earth, through the roof of this building, into the crown of your head. And now imagine that this light spirals through your body as you breathe in, spiraling the light through the nervous system, through the brain stem, through the shoulders, through the spinal column, all the way to the base of the spine. And then imagine it moves all the way out through the body, and you have little trap doors under your feet, and you send the light out down into the earth. Now, when you're spiraling this light down, imagine that you're bringing the light in a clockwise motion. So you're spiraling that light in a clockwise motion. And if you are feeling the need to eliminate something, you're bringing the light in, and then all of a sudden you notice a lump in your throat. Take that lump and counterclockwise spiral out like a whale, spouting the energy out through the top of your head. Just release it out through the top of your head, sending it back to the universe. Then, of course, always return to bringing light back in, spiraling in clockwise, clockwise, clockwise. Now, kind of like a corkscrew moving right through where that barrier was, bringing the energy in. And continue until you come to the next little barrier. And it may be in your upper chest or in your heart. And then again, spiral it out, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. Send that lump, constriction, knot, or barrier out through the crown of your head like a whale spouting. And then breathe in, clockwise, bringing the energy in. Each breath breathing in, each exhale circulating the light and the energy through the body until you feel an entire column of clarity of energy. Again, if you notice a barrier, just counterclockwise, take that energy and spout it out through the crown of the head, and then always ending, bringing energy, spiritual energy, subtle energy, through the symbol of the image of light, sparkling light, all the way through the body, all the way down, through into the ground. So this capacity to move energy with your awareness of the mind through this very simple exercise of the column of light. Practice it now as I'm talking. Notice that we are actually able to work with energy through the power of our thought, through intentional thought. According to the ancient Egyptians, creative intentional thought is the second resource we have to use to access and mobilize our intuition. To access and mobilize our intuition through the power of thought. The ancient mystery schools described this as energy follows thought. Energy follows thought. So the third resource that we have, the three resources of energy, creative thought, and the third one is intuitive awareness, watching for the intuitive signals so we can observe how energy is moving through our thoughts and interacting with matter. We get feedback in the physical world. Intuition is integrated through action. So in order to begin to read the signals, that's what we're all really here for today, isn't it? How do we read the signals? Now that we know how to amplify them, now that we know how to work with energy, the real question is, how do we read the signals and not misinterpret the signals? According to the ancient Egyptians, we had 12 senses, not 5. 12 senses. And as I identify these 12 senses, you'll recognize them. And you'll see that you use all of these senses all of the time. So let's start with this. Close your eyes again. We're going to do another little meditation. And just identify in your breath and body and awareness. And the first awareness is through the gift of our inner creative resource, imagination. Imagine yourself at the seaside. The sensation of hot sand under your toes, the pounding sound of the surf, the waves rolling in and out, the smell of salt in the air, the screeching of gulls overhead. Perhaps you feel yourself moving now into a jog or a run or a walk on the beach, feeling your limbs move effortlessly and easily. The sensation of the mist of the sea, perhaps the fog beginning to roll in. Now allow yourself to imagine that you walk into the kitchen and fresh cookies are baking. And you go to the refrigerator and pull out a lemon. Slice the lemon. And just take a bite of that lemon. And notice now that you find a delicious cookie coming straight from the oven. And after you let the cookie cool, you take a bite of it. Okay, now open your eyes. And just observe. Image, guided image, has many different modalities. According to the work of McKellar in Experiences and Behavior, different people have different access to resources. So how many of you had visual images of the seaside? 97% of people have access to visual images. How many of you heard the gulls and heard the pounding surf? 93% have auditory signals. How many of you actually felt yourself walking or running on the beach? Okay. 74% experience motor imagery, motor impressions. How many of you had a tactile experience? You felt the sand beneath your toes? 70% of people have tactile experiences. What about gustatory? Gustatory is taste. Anybody get juicy when they bit the lemon? How many preferred the cookie? What about olfactory? 66% have olfactory cues, the smell of the cookies. Anybody smell the cookies baking? The smell of the sea salt at the ocean? What about pain? When you pulled the cookies out of the oven, was it too hot? Or I suggested that you have it cool. Just for your information, 54% of people actually experience pain through their inner experience. And temperature. Anybody burn their lip or tongue on the cookie there? So there we go, the sensation of pain. And likewise, temperature. Whether it was the warm sun or the cookie being warm when you ate it, 43% of people experience imagery